Did you know that I was descended from royalty? A simple bow or curtsy will be fine. It's true, at least as far as can be conjectured through the ancient records available. Actually, there are a number of my ancestors in the royal family in the ancient kingdoms of Britain before it became a united country. The most notable would be Rhodri ap Murfin, who lived from 820 until 878 AD. Later, he would become known as Rhodri the Great, who succeeded his father on the throne, Murfin Fraish, as king of Grineld in 844 AD. Now, Rhodri annexed Powys in 856 AD, and Sisselwig in 871 AD, and he is called the King of the Britons by the annals of Ulster. In some later histories, he's referred to as the King of Wales. That having been said, I have no expectation that my royal line will be established again someday. Even if all the royal family of Great Britain were to be wiped out, I cannot imagine a scenario where King Roger would come to reign. So you don't have to worry about that. No, my line is far more established by men who did farming work through the generations. I grew up on a farm, and I lived a life far removed from any royal connection. Rather than having people who were dedicating their lives to serving all of my needs, I found on life on the farm that much of my time was spent looking out for the needs of farm animals. And that could be quite taxing at times, like looking for cows in the winter. You know, cows have this reputation for being calm, peaceful, pastoral animals. They're not. Cows can be ornery. Cows can be stubborn. Cows can be determined. And if they get it in their mind that the grass is greener somewhere else, they'll test every square inch of fencing you have around the pasture. They'll push against it. They'll lean against the posts. They'll trample down the low spots until they can find a way to get out. So much of the year, as I was growing up on the farm, we spent in repairing fence, putting in new fence posts, making sure everything was tight and secure. But still, there were those occasions when the cows managed to get out. I can remember one time during a very cold winter, it was sub-zero weather when the cows decided to make a break for it. I don't know if they thought there was warmer pasture somewhere, but they certainly had to know there was nothing green that was going on at that time of year. But anyway, I had to leave the warmth and comfort of the home to go out traipsing through the fields for hours on end looking for these cows, trying to follow them through the stubble of the cornfields that was left at that time of year, eventually running into them miles away, and then trying to convince them to herd in the same direction until I got them home. I had started off warm on that journey. By the time darkness was coming, and I finally had the cows in the barnyard, I was cold. My hands and my feet were frozen. And I can remember the painful time I had with them unthawing as I went back into the house that night. I remember chasing after the cows. And that experience helps me to sympathize with Saul, who had gone looking for lost donkeys of his father, as we find in our text this morning. We're continuing our messages in 1 Samuel. This morning we come to 1 Samuel chapter 9, verses 1 through 21, where we find these words. Now there was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zerzor, the son of Bechereth, the son of Aphiah, the son of a Benjamite, a mighty man of valor. He had a son whose name was Saul, a choice and handsome man, and there was not a more handsome person than he among the sons of Israel. From his shoulders and up he was taller than any of the people. Now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. And so Kish said to his son Saul, "Take now with you one of the servants, and arise, go search for the donkeys." He passed through the hill country of Ephraim and passed through the land of Shalishmah, but they did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Shalim, but they were not there. Then they passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they did not find them. When they came to the land of Zuph, Saul said to his servant who was with him, "Come and let us return, or else my father will cease to be concerned about the donkeys and will become anxious for us." He said to him, "Behold now, there's a man of God in this city, and the man is held in honor. All that he says surely comes true. Now let us go there. Perhaps he can tell us about our journey on which we have set out." Then Saul said to his servant, "But behold, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread is gone from our sack, and there is no present to bring to the man of God. What do we have?" The servant answered Saul again and said, "Behold, I have in my hand a fourth of a shekel of silver. I will give it to the man of God, and he will tell us our way." Formerly in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, he used to say, "Come and let us go to the seer." For he who is called a prophet now was formerly called a seer. Then Saul said to his servant, "Well said, come, let us go." So they went to the city where the man of God was. And they went up the slope to the city. They found a young woman going out there to draw water and said to them, "Is the seer here?" They answered them and said, "He is. See, he is ahead of you. Hurry now, for he has come to the city today for the people to have a sacrifice on the high place today. As soon as you enter the city, you will find him before he goes up to the high place to eat, for the people will not eat until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Now therefore go up, for you will find him at once." So they went up to the city, and as they came to the city, behold, Samuel was coming out toward them to go up to the high place. Now a day before Samuel's coming, the Lord had revealed this to Samuel, saying, "About this time tomorrow I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him to be prince over my people Israel. And he will deliver my people from the hand of the Philistines. For I have regarded my people, because their cry has come to me." When Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said to him, "Behold, the man of whom I spoke to you, this one shall rule over my people." Then Saul approached Samuel in the gate and said, "Please tell me where the seer's house is." Samuel answered Saul and said, "I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today. And in the morning I will let you go, and will tell you all that is on your mind. As for your donkeys, which were lost 3 days ago, do not set your mind on them, for they have been found. And for whom is all that is desirable in Israel? Is it not for you, for all your father's household?" Saul replied, "Am I not a Benjamite, of the smallest of the tribes of Israel? And my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin? Why then do you speak to me in this way?" So we look at this passage from God's word this morning. I want you to first of all observe the ordinary. In our text, we find Saul doing what he had done all his life. He was on his father's land, tending to his father's animals. You know, most of our lives are lived in the ordinary. We establish our routines and we live by them. And even if our ordinary changes with the passage of time, even if we graduate from school and begin a career, even if we change careers, even if we move to a different area, it's not very long before our patterns are solidified again and we return to the ordinary. We are ordinary people living ordinary lives. We might entertain ourselves with the thoughts of great adventures or choices in bold lifestyles like that of a missionary venturing into a strangely foreign and dangerous country to courageously live out our faith. But generally, we feel more comfortable trotting along the familiar paths. We feel more comfortable with ordinary. Oh, we might adventure out for a spell. We might see the world with the Navy. Or we might fight on foreign battlefields. Or for a little short time, we might go on a mission trip someplace. But after that exception to the rule, we return again to the ordinary. Sometimes there's the unexpected, and yet we remain in the ordinary. In our text, the unexpected came in the form of missing livestock. This disrupted the daily routine. But even though he had additional work and worries now, he still was living as he always had, as he's traipsing after these donkeys all through the civilized land. With us, in our lives, it might be the water heater is rusted through, and suddenly we've got a mess to clean up in the basement and the expense of replacing that water heater. It might be that the kids get sick and take us out of our ordinary routine, or a larger than expected bill comes in, or the car acts up, or someone begins making unreasonable demands concerning your time or your work, or there's a medical crisis, or the roof is leaking, or something precious to you is missing, or someone you love dies. You're caught up in a flood, the dog gets hit and has to be taken to the vet. You know, there's millions of variables that come unexpectedly and strain us and make our lives more difficult. And sometimes those things threaten to overwhelm us. But still we continue in our ordinary lives, even with the occasional and sometimes painful interludes in them. Like Saul, we're living those ordinary lives, and we believe that they will continue in that way for as long as we live. But in this passage, we don't just see the ordinary. We come to be surprised with the extraordinary. God had communicated to Samuel, his prophet, that the king to be chosen for Israel, the king that the people had been demanding that they should have, would be this son of a farmer, Saul. And so as the missing donkeys led Saul to seek out Samuel, Samuel uses the opportunity to latch on to this young man and to prepare him for that position. Now, Saul wasn't sure why Samuel was lavishing upon him this special attention, why he said that he was blessed and his whole family was blessed, because Saul was convinced that he was pretty ordinary and that all that could be expected out of his life was the ordinary. That's what he says in this passage, that last part that we read this morning. He says, "Am I not a Benjamite of the smallest of the tribes of Israel? And my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin?" He's saying to them, he's saying to Samuel here, I'm nobody of importance. I'm probably the least important person that you could find. If you need someone to take on an important role, you better look elsewhere, because there's nothing significant about me. That's what Saul thought. That's the way that we're inclined to respond when the opportunity to do something exceptional is given to us. We respond with that attitude that we're ordinary people living ordinary lives. You should look elsewhere if you expect anything exceptional. I'm just a plain, regular, everyday person. Look for somebody special to do something special. But you know something? God has a habit of taking us out of the ordinary and into the extraordinary. It's not about our greatness. It's not about how wonderfully talented and gifted that we are. It's about God's greatness through us. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 7 says this, "But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us." Jars of clay, the ordinary household container. Nothing special about it. We have this treasure in jars of clay that we can see the greatness is not of us, it's of God. That we can see that what is powerful, what is mighty, what is lasting that can come from our life isn't because of our nature, but because we've allowed God to use us. God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things so that we can know that what is done is by his power and not by our greatness. Our greatness is only as we allow God to do great things through our ordinary selves. Paul might be from the tiniest tribe and from the least impressive portion of people of that tribe, but God could make him a king to rule over all of his people. And so Jesus, when he was on this earth, he chose ordinary men to be his closest, to be his disciples, to be the ones to whom he would entrust the keys of the kingdom. These were ordinary men. Most of them were Galilean fishermen. They were looked down on by the rest of society. Nobody expected anything great to come from them. They knew how to mend nets. They knew how to catch fish. Nobody expected greatness to come out of them. But when they allowed themselves to be used of God, they turned the world upside down in their lives. God did something extraordinary through those ordinary people that Jesus chose. You know, there wasn't a ruler, there wasn't a religious elite among the followers, the closest followers of Jesus. But God had a purpose in mind for them. And when they submitted to his will, God did great through them. In the same way, he can use us, ordinary people, to do extraordinary things. Things which have eternal value. Things which do not pass away with time. Things which are not consumed with the circumstances of our daily lives. But they have an eternal power going through the ages if we will allow him to do that through us. If we will accept that we are not so ordinary that God can't use us. And if we choose to accept the opportunities that he places before us. Do the things out of our comfort zones. Apply ourselves to the work that's too big for us to do. Only on our willingness to be used of him can God's greatness be seen shining through our lives. Only then will our lives have significance as we turn them over to God to be used by him. Only God could take a humble farm boy from a nothing family and make him king over the nation of his people. Only God can take whoever we are and whatever life we're living and make something powerful as we accept his will for our lives. Saul was looking for donkeys when God reached out to make him a king. So I ask you, in the middle of your ordinary routine this morning, will you allow God to take you from the plain life that you're living to live a life of greatness for him?